While it is highly tempting to associate every escalation currently observed worldwide with the disintegration of the post-Cold War order, certain conflicts can escalate rapidly, irrespective of global circumstances. The Indo-Pakistani conflict exemplifies this phenomenon. These nations have engaged in warfare over Kashmir immediately following World War II in 1947, during the Cold War in 1965 and 1971, and again in 1999, a period characterized by Pax Americana and relative tranquility. For insights into the earlier conflicts, we invite you to explore our videos on our channel. As we approach 2025, India and Pakistan appear to be on the verge of yet another conflict. This video outlines the underlying causes and potential ramifications of the recent tensions between these two nations. The last significant conflict in Kashmir occurred in 1999. It would be an overstatement to assert that the contested region has experienced tranquility since that time, as numerous confrontations between the Indian and Pakistani armed forces in Kashmir, along with several lethal terrorist incidents perpetrated by extremist factions in both India-administered Kashmir and mainland India, have illustrated that the Indo-Pakistani conflict retains its volatile nature. Nevertheless, relations between Kashmir and India-Pakistan had been relatively stable following the 1999 conflict until 2019, when a suicide attack executed by the Islamist organization Jaish-e-Mohammed resulted in the deaths of 40 Indian paramilitary personnel in Kashmir. In response, India annulled the special status of the India-administered segment of Jammu and Kashmir, significantly curtailing its autonomy. New regulations permitted outsiders to purchase land and reside and work in Jammu and Kashmir for the first time, a decision that was welcomed by the Hindu nationalist base of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, while inciting outrage among the Muslim populace of Kashmir, who feared that this action would drastically alter the demographics of the contested area. The Modi administration also initiated a stringent crackdown on local insurgent factions, which they alleged were supported by Pakistan, and enforced stringent security protocols in the region. The Indian government has since claimed to have addressed the security crisis in the area, despite the ongoing insurgency. India invested heavily in enhancing the infrastructure of Kashmir and to some degree succeeded in transforming this picturesque region into a tourist hotspot. In 2024, a record 3.5 million visitors traveled to Kashmir as Modi praised his government's robust security measures for stabilizing the situation in the state and declared it open for business. However, the horrific terrorist attack that occurred on April 22nd demonstrated that the security challenges in Kashmir remain unresolved. On this day, a group known as the Resistance Front, believed to be a splinter faction of the recognized terrorist organization Lashkar-e-Taiba, which India alleges is backed by the Pakistani government, executed 26 tourists near Pahalgam. Except for one, all the victims were Indian nationals, and this terrorist act sparked significant outrage across India. Prime Minister Modi, who was on an official trip to Saudi Arabia, promptly returned to India and ordered a series of retaliatory actions against Pakistan. India's foreign secretary declared that the country would impose a travel ban on all Pakistani citizens, revoke their visas, close the integrated border checkposts at Atari Wagah, expel Pakistani military advisors from the Pakistan High Commission in New Delhi, and withdraw Indian counterparts from Islamabad. However, the most critical and impactful retaliatory action taken by India was the suspension of the 1960 Indus Waters Treaty. Pakistan has already labeled this as an act of war. Why is this significant? This treaty, facilitated by the World Bank, is a water-sharing agreement that divides the Indus River Basin between India and Pakistan, with Pakistan managing the western tributaries and India overseeing the eastern ones. These rivers are essential for Pakistan's agricultural and food security. Even during the wars of 1965, 1971, and 1999, India refrained from obstructing the river flow to Pakistan. But this time, the Indian government plans to ensure that not a single drop of water reaches Pakistan, as stated by India's Water Power Minister, Patel. But how will they execute this in practice? According to a BBC report on the subject, India's current water infrastructure lacks the necessary capabilities to carry out this plan. It does not possess the storage capacity required to retain the large volumes of water they aim to withhold from Pakistan, nor do they have an extensive canal network to redirect such significant amounts of water. Experts warn that without adequate infrastructure, India may face significant flooding within its own borders, as its dams are situated far from the Pakistani frontier. Indian government officials indicate that they are pursuing both midterm and long-term strategies to implement the suspension of the treaty, which involves enhancing India's ability to retain and redirect water destined for Pakistan, constructing new water storage facilities, and desilting rivers. Consequently, this aspect of India's response will not immediately impact Pakistan. Rather, it will only take effect if India proceeds with its plans to upgrade and expand its water infrastructure. However, India can promptly cease the sharing of hydrological data with Pakistan, which, according to the BBC, is essential for flood forecasting and managing irrigation, hydropower, and drinking water supplies. This action would effectively leave Pakistan uninformed about upstream developments, heightening the risks of floods, droughts, and food shortages. Nevertheless, Pakistani sources have pointed out that even prior to India's suspension of the treaty, they had not been receiving all the anticipated data. Given the treaty's critical importance to Pakistan, its government issued a strongly worded statement denouncing India and pledging to respond decisively across the full spectrum of national power. As previously noted, Pakistan perceives the suspension of the water treaty as an act of war, which renders the situation unpredictable, imposes a genuine risk of military escalation between two nuclear-armed nations. Pakistan has urged the World Bank and the international community to intervene against India's decision to suspend the treaty. In addition, Pakistan has suspended the 1972 Simla Agreement, which serves as the peace treaty between India and Pakistan, indicating a willingness to resort to military action. The country has also restricted airspace for Indian flights and taken reciprocal measures such as halting visas for Indian nationals, expelling Indian diplomats and military advisors, and severing all trade relations with India. Furthermore, the Pakistani government has called for an impartial investigation into the terrorist attack in Kashmir, while firmly denying any involvement. Naturally, another episode of Indo-Pakistani tensions has been marked by military escalations and threats of military engagement from both parties. Following the terrorist incident, the Indian Army and other security agencies initiated a security operation in the region to locate the attackers, in line with Modi's commitment to pursue them relentlessly. The residences of at least 5 suspected attackers have been destroyed by Indian security forces, and confrontations have occurred between them and local insurgents. Additionally, there have been exchanges of small arms fire along the border between India and Pakistan. As of late April, military responses from both sides have remained measured, suggesting that the most probable outcome from a military standpoint is confined to border skirmishes and artillery exchanges. India may also consider executing small, cross-border operations and surgical strikes against militant camps as a retaliatory measure for the April 22nd attack. In response, Pakistan might engage in similar actions and potentially initiate small-scale ground operations of their own. At this juncture, a full-scale conventional war appears unlikely. India is currently in a position of retaliation, and there exists a possibility that following surgical strikes and operations against insurgent camps, including those linked to the Pahalgam attack, it may proclaim victory to satisfy public sentiment while ensuring that its actions do not elicit a significant response from Pakistan. However, this situation could alter if India begins to actively implement the suspension of the Indus Water Treaty. As previously mentioned, such a development could prove catastrophic for Pakistan, which, feeling cornered, might resort to more severe actions than mere cross-border raids to compel New Delhi to reverse its policies if diplomatic efforts fail. The question remains whether Pakistan possesses the military and economic capacity to inflict substantial damage on India, which has been progressively modernizing its military through acquisitions of advanced equipment from both Western nations and Russia, especially at a time when its longtime ally, the United States, is fostering closer ties with India. This is not the first instance of heightened tensions between India and Pakistan since the 1999 war, suggesting that a significant escalation may still be averted. Nevertheless, There is also a possibility that these tensions could spark a conflict, particularly as India commits to a retaliatory action that it has not previously undertaken. Up to this point, we have observed a significant amount of aggressive rhetoric from both parties, with minimal external efforts to mediate the conflict. As noted by American South Asia expert Michael Kugelman, we have two nuclear-capable neighbors in a tense standoff, which could lead to unpredictable outcomes. Just hours prior to the release of this episode, videos emerged depicting India conducting strikes in a controlled area of Kashmir. The Indian military claims these strikes are aimed at terrorist organizations while intentionally avoiding Pakistani military sites. However, Al Jazeera reported an attack on an old airport in Muzaffarabad, and Reuters confirmed at least two explosions in the Indian-administered regions of Kashmir. We will continue to discuss this situation in the upcoming days and weeks, so please ensure you are subscribed and have activated notifications to stay updated. We encourage you to like, subscribe, comment, and share.